Hi, beautiful people. I'm Anka. Welcome to this amazing, nice, hot summer day. It's cooling down, but I've been just a little bit complaining how July has been cooler. So now I had to come out and be in the heat and really enjoy that piece of it. I've been integrating, I've been allowing and relaxing into the unfolding of these energies. It's been amazing and nice and beautiful. And for the past couple days, I'm slowly coming to this very interesting concept regarding humility. And my mind is very curious and intrigued, and it wants to have a discussion on it with the observations. And I wish you guys were all here in circles so I can bounce this question off your perception and play around with some of these ideas. Because what's been coming up is this question: does humility exist in the heart space, in the 5D and above? Because what I'm observing is this trying for the software around this idea of humility trying to uninstall itself. And it's been coming up more and more, and I'm realizing it's part of my sorrow as well, things that are still being grieved or uninstalling, letting go, still in the shadow of the death process, sort of. But it's been the most amazing processing of sorrow, very gentle, very beautiful. So I'm grateful for that. And this humility thing, it's a well-rooted program for sure. So I think that's part of it, why the mind is wanting to actually go through the talking out loud, the articulation of it. Because I mean, it's been running for at least 20 years, right, within me. I don't know about your environment, but I feel like there was kind of like a expectation to practice humility, to be meek, and to be modest, always take into account, what's going on around you, put others first, right? You're a zero. I don't know if you had that, but I kind of grew up with that idea that we're all zeros, but you're the first zero type of thing. So everybody gets to go first. And then in the spiritual community, of course, we have the spiritual ego, and um, and we do have to be careful, right? There's so many people proclaiming themselves to be this or that, or to claim whatever powers, and then they're not that at all. It's just a trickster or something like that. But overall, this modesty, I think sometimes it's overdone, because if you are applying humility, and maybe it depends how you define it, right? But the way it is in my head, humility is a conscious choice. It's a willpower that you are applying consciously towards your ego rising, typically, right? So the overextension of that is problematic, I think, and it can burn ourselves. We can burn ourselves out if we overextend ourselves with that, because it's very difficult to know where the ego stops, right? Where your self-esteem starts, where your creativity, where your own enlightenment or the recognition of your own enlightenment stops. And if you're just, putting an umbrella, right, through your humility as an act of a will, then you're quenching that. And then you need to apply more will towards your enlightenment, and but you don't see it because you're applying the meekness, and you see how that overextension is not healthy either. So it's definitely a fine line, to play with that. The the one other thing that came up for me playing around with this idea of humility was when Ra came to visit me. I had two meditations in a row, or 2 days in a row, where Ra came to do some healing or something on me. And he hasn't visited me probably in 2 years and a half. I don't know, a while. And in his presence, I'm like, oh, Ra, is Ra practicing humility? And then I went into this whole thing of all the temples and churches, altars, places of worship that we created specifically, yeah, to worship God. And then I got into that concept because as a child, I really had a hard time with understanding what that means. And it's really interesting because as I uninstall humility, which I got really good at, now I understand worship that I didn't understand before. So it's just so interesting because to fully understand those concepts, they live in different consciousnesses the way I see it now. So it's like if you've never been in that much awe and in that much love to understand the concept of worship, at least the way I define it, worship for me was kind of like a one-way street. I worship the God and that's it. And now it's like, oh no, that's not worship. And it's just so interesting the clarity that we have now about these things. So to me, worship now, especially from Ra perspective, right? Because when I asked that, it's like, I wonder how a deity like that, like how a God would feel. So I put myself in that role, and it's like, oh yeah, it's nice to feel worshipped. But because there's no ego and there's no humility like that, worship feels like a recognition. Finally, somebody sees you. Finally, somebody sees your light or your radiance, your expansion, your complexity. You are being seen. And as a God, you don't have to be small just to be accepted. You don't have to cloak yourself, right? You don't have to, yeah, apply the humility to arrive into ego consciousness to at least have a presence or whatever it is, right? That seeing, that recognition is a two-way street, and the worship, it's just an interesting word, but to me now it's like, yeah, it's just I see you, and the other one also, I see you. And it's such a celebration. Now, the really awesome thing that happens when you are in that celebration and in that discovery of, oh my God, I see you for real. Not just with I'm experiencing you, that type of thing, right? Then in that awe, there comes a humbling that's automatic and that's effortless. And I think that's why, because the awe is there and there's a lack of ego, the ego has dissolved. You don't need to apply humility because the humbleness, being humble is the result of applying humility. But humility, yeah, it's only a tool that exists. I'm pretty sure, especially now that I'm talking out loud. I'm convincing myself it's so easy to do, and it's just one. But it's I like this idea. I think I'm sticking to this, and I'm enjoying the celebration. I'm enjoying expansion, the and the worship. Yeah, the worship is just an allowing to be a freedom. That's what it is. It's a freedom to be who you are and to be received, to be accepted for who you are. So maybe that's God's problem. You know, it's to for other people, other beings to be big enough to see God for what it is and to accept the experience of God, of what God is, right? And then in that reunion, in that celebration, yeah, you can't be meek, you can't be modest. You just can't. So yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, okay, so I foresee a little bit of misunderstanding, right? When you try to explain this and it's like, no, not I, that, this I, all this other. There's a language barrier, yeah, that the language won't hold in those type of scenarios, because language now is 100% dependent at, from the level of consciousness that is being spoken from, and depending on that level, the meanings are different, the experiences are different, the connotation, the, you know, in a certain level of consciousness, words are really important. Then you go higher and all of a sudden those same words are no longer that important because they kind of serve somehow as a loose symbol of a representation, but it's not any close to what you're trying to say. So then it's like, well, no, yeah, words don't really matter anymore. And I feel like I'm starting to talk in tarot. You know, it's like, oh yeah, yeah. I feel like, you know, the Six of Cups, and because it's easier. You don't have to sit there and try to explain, and then you're off anyway. And as soon as you try to explain it, you are humbling it. You are no, you're meeking it. You're making it less meaningful. You're translating in something smaller. You're humbling. You're putting your humility as you're speaking it. So it doesn't work. So it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, and just I think it would be so interesting to see that play out. You know, with amongst people and groups, and just to be conscious. You know, from what level of consciousness are you coming from? Because now, again, sometimes I'm seeing, so as one embodies more light, is kind of becoming a little bit difficult to be meek. Um, you're still humble, but it's a lot easier to, at least the want, you have the desire to express yourself fully all the time. And because of these limitations of perception, the level of consciousness, language, the understanding of words, the connotation of words, the placement of judgments on certain words, you know, all those things. It's just difficult to have these conversations on the same level, right? I mean, you can have all kinds of conversations, but it's not being received the way you mean it. It will, I mean, it will play out. I think it will be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to see this in action and to further explore this concept, and further understand this with all of you. So yeah, that's it. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.